Okay, so welcome to a somewhat strange podcast recording today. My name's Dave Holland, as some of you may know, and my guest, my colleague today is a gentleman called Peter Dobner, who will introduce himself in a second or two. And we've known each other for, I'm going to say 30 years, a long, long time. I was only 5 when we first met, and we've met for a long time. I actually worked for Peter back in the day in London, in the UK, and Peter was the last, and I've got to say, genuinely, and one of the best bosses I ever had. And we went off and did our own thing after that. And we reconnected. We've been in each other's universe for a while, but we reconnected about, a week, 10 days ago. And I'm pretty sure we can collaborate on some things. We thought it'd be good to have a conversation. So this is me speaking with my ex-boss, which all sounds very bizarre. But anyway, Peter, just give a quick intro. Who are you? What you do? Where you're from? And that type of thing.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, David. I think the thing that you and I have in common, David, is that we probably didn't go the trodden path. Yeah, we took the curves and differences that maybe are a little bit more unusual. Yeah, I grew up in Vienna and I studied mathematics. But Christina, my wife, and I, we also did ballroom dancing of all things. And, we thought, well, where can we take it? And at that time, if you wanted to do anything international, you had to go to London. So, after a little bit of mulling it over, that's what we did. But half our friends were envious. The other half thought we were crazy. But we ended up in London. We thought it was going to be maybe for a few months or maybe a year or two. And we ended up being 23 years in London. We built up the business where the two of us worked together, became a niche market leader in that field. The company is still a niche market leader, but we sold in 2015. And I'm still advisory on the board, but other than that, I'm a lot more free to do whatever I want to do. So even before that, over the last 10 years, 12 years, I would say, I've increasingly moved into coaching. Mm-hmm. And I love working with people, and I kind of feel, on one hand, I'm interested in strategies for business, and on the other hand, I'm interested in strategies for life. And with owner-managed businesses, and that's the people that I tend to work with, the two overlap.
Absolutely. Yeah, they are the sort of one and the same thing, aren't they? I think. And very quickly, I remember. I'm sure you do as well. When I came for the day interview, I think it was Roger Latham that introduced me to you guys back in the day.
Yep.
And I remember coming. I was living in Southampton at the time, and you guys are in Mitcham in London. I drove up on the day, and in the sort of, there's about 4 or 5 candidates there from memory, and I recall, I think it was you, and I think it was Anne Laxon was sort of doing the quick intros, and we introduced each other to ourselves as candidates, and the other candidates that were there for the role, I think they're from the theatre, the West End, Savile Row, they've all been in the, and somebody said, what was the last project you ever worked on? And mine was a submarine periscope case for the British Navy, which was so far removed. And when we finished the day, I remember driving back to Southampton thinking, I've got no chance of that at all. But I think Roger had phoned Lynn in the meantime, and the rest is history. So it was quite an unusual way we connected. But
I think something clicked that was not about the product or about the thing. And I think that's what it comes down to. Ultimately, always comes down to people. Yeah. And we made stuff happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. The rest is history. I know you and I were talking about as a theme for this whole conversation. It's just conversation, and I picked a word out of the ether and just thought, well, let's talk about happiness, which is a very broad subject.
Yeah, when I saw you proposing that, I thought, okay, let's go for a simple topic, right?
Let's not talk about anything too deep, all right? Just happiness, keep it nice and thin on top. But in principle, it may lead us down to interesting alleys as well, I suppose. So you've had a fabulous career, business-wise, personal-wise, all over the world, or anything like that. What have you discovered? Happiness? What does happiness mean for you guys?
I mean, it has so many perspectives and so many angles to it. And a lot of them are actually very, very personal, I think. So they're different for different people. I think I was always fairly happy, but for a long time, there was also a recurring element of discontent. Mm-hmm. And it was only, I don't know, must have been in my late 30s or early 40s. And I went on a training course, a course that I also now teach, with the avatar training. Mm-hmm. And it made me realize what I think a lot of people miss. And some people realize that ultimately happiness is an internal affair. Yeah, if you're trying to be happy because of, it's a hard slog, because it changes and you might get there and you might not. Happiness in itself is an internal thing. What I find for myself is, and what I've decided is, that I'm most happy is on a couple of things. Yes, firstly, I love building things. I'm really happy when I make stuff happen and I feel I'm making a difference, and I also love helping people, so and I get particularly excited when somebody ends up doing something that they themselves thought they couldn't. Yeah, I think that's just outstanding.
I think it's something, I know I think it's interesting, our lives and careers were in sort of different universes completely, almost, because and yet they overlap in the key areas. I think about values and family and that type of thing. And I know I spent some time when you and I got together, but in terms of career, was chasing things that I thought would make me happy, whether it was money or significance or promotions and all this sort of thing. And of course, it's an impossible zero-sum game, because you can never win. And for what we do, we're based in France, as you know, we're in Metz, and we work out of Luxembourg. And I think the happiness now is not money focused. It is through other people to a degree, but not just on their direct feedback. It's seeing what they can do and being involved in that journey with them to a certain extent. But I got over them chasing the money a long time ago. The money's good. We're okay. We can buy bread and milk. We're all right.
Yeah.
But we don't need 50 million to be happy. We need comfort. But happiness comes from somewhere else. As you say, it's an internal feeling.
Yeah, and I think money in itself is only part of it. I mean, of course, you need enough to have the freedom to do what you want to do. Sure. But after that, I'm not sure exactly what the purpose is. I think I mean, I think a lot of marketing and billboards, and there's hundreds of messages a day that reach you. You will be happy if. Exactly. Well, no, I really don't think so.
But it always seems to be sort of contingent upon. It's always if, isn't it? You'll be happy if or when, and it's future based, and that I think is a shame, because happiness is now. It has to be now, and I wonder. Another for me, I think it was part of the ego. I wanted to have bigger, brighter, better in order to be happy, and it was on these external inputs to a degree. Yeah. Whereas now, yes, we have external inputs, but there is that sort of inner, as you say, it's an inner feeling. I think a lot of people chase the wrong things to try and be happy, people, money, situations as well.
But I think, in fairness, our society educates us that way and brings us up that way. If you will be this, if you will have that, then, so it's a very easy track to walk into, and for me, as I said, it took some years and some decades of trying the other way, and then there were certain realizations that I had where suddenly clicked and it fell to place. And it isn't even that I changed all that much of what I did, but I somehow did it from a different place, and actually things became a lot more fun and lighter and easier. It doesn't mean I don't want to achieve anything. I want to achieve lots, but I'm having a good time with it.
Absolutely. I think it is that fun and enjoyment. And I was told, as you got back some weeks ago now, by somebody who did a workshop, an online workshop, and somebody pinged me a message afterwards, and they said that I was irritatingly happy.
You do get suspicions occasionally, right?
Yeah. What drugs are you on? What are you actually taking? What's happening here?
Why are you not worried about such and such?
Exactly. Why isn't the COVID? Why isn't there whatever it is? Why aren't you getting crushed by this? And I think it's just a state of mind, and it's something that we realised, if you like, has worked its way through. But now I think it's just irritatingly happy all the time. Well, what's the alternative? To be some miserable old goat worried about the future. And I think that comes back with age a little bit as well.
Well, maybe, but I mean, I don't know how you experience. What I noticed with you, and I think we've done it also at times, is we made some unusual decisions, and it takes a little bit of courage, because people around you kind of look at it as if you're a little bit strange.
Absolutely.
But if it's right, it always comes out good every single time. Absolutely. Even if it's a little off the norm, or maybe particularly if it's off the norm, you're doing your thing. And I
Exactly.
think that is an important part of making it happy. You can't do it on somebody else's terms.
No, but if you think of all the decisions you guys made as a couple and as a family, as we've done as well, it
Yeah.
goes against the norm. People look at you and think,
Yeah.
"Are you mad? You should be playing safe. Don't take the risk, and don't do this and don't do that." And we've done that a number of times, as you have. And I think we get to that point where we're happy through the process, but also I think we've got to the point where we trust ourselves that whatever happens, well, it'll be okay. You know, it's fine. We'll have to go and stack shelves in the supermarket, whatever. It'll be all right. It'll figure itself out. And maybe people they never achieve happiness because they're not prepared to take the risk of changing to achieve it, maybe.
Well, maybe. And I think it is such an important step to living your own life. I mean, when we moved to London the first time, you know, and okay, that was inflation, but still, we had a budget of £15 for the two of us to eat for a week. Yeah, so you know there was a lot of potatoes on the table.
Potatoes and pasta.
You know, well, it gives you some perspective, but we had no attention on it. You know, okay, we had to be careful with it, but we did what we wanted to do. In this case, we pursued our sports career. You know, and we did pretty good with it, and you know, we had a great time, and then it moved on from there. But and I mean, it's interesting what the motivation was, because of course we mulled it over, and I had a very careful dad, you know, he asked me all the questions. But what made us decide in the end was that we didn't want to look back 20 years on and wonder what would have been if.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you just got to go with your intuition, and if it feels right, you got to go. Yeah, okay.
I think the opportunities are everywhere, even in these unusual, uncertain times.
Yeah.
And if you're open to them and you recognise them as opportunities, and you're prepared to walk through the door and say yes and have a go at things, that's where it all comes from. When we had a phone call, literally a phone call some years ago. I think you the last time we met, we're about to move over to the US. And you got to go live in Las Vegas, which is ridiculous. Go from the cows and sheep in Shropshire in the UK to the US. And I remember speaking to my dad, who was with us back then, and he just could not. It was just insane. And he said to me, we lived in a place called Telford in the UK, a little mid-sized town. And he said to me, he said, "What do you want to go to Las Vegas for?" He said, you haven't seen all of Telford yet." It's like, well, I know I haven't seen all of Telford yet, but I know there are some roads I haven't been down. But to him, it was just totally high risk. It was crazy. But to us, it was adventure. And I think that spirit of adventure and searching and going on a journey is maybe part of the defining factor, certainly for us, but also maybe for you guys as well.
I think so, but I mean, I also have to say that there have been times where I had to work it, because, like I said before, my dad was super careful. Yeah? Right. So what I grew up with is watch this, watch this. You know, when we went to the UK at that time, we had money for 8 weeks. And after about 4 weeks, we could see that we were going to make it to stay on. You know, we could earn enough to stay. I had a letter every day from him that was going, "Do you think about," I mean, I was 20 something, you know, "Have you thought about your pension contribution? Have you thought about your national insurance? Have you thought about your health?" You know, so I was bombarded with all this, what if? Wow. I think if you get lost in that, you know, you end up just being safe all the time. And I doubt that it leads to the life that we can live if you just always watch and be safe.
I wonder if the myth is that life is predictable. If we think we can plan a career, a pension, a savings plan, a mortgage, if we think we can plan it, we stay safe on the path. But actually, we can't predict, because what happened, you know, our business was going really well. January, February to mid-March, we were flying. Q1 was up, and then all of a sudden, bang, and it's okay, we're getting through, it's all good. But it's like you could not predict this. And some of the biggest changes that I think that impact our lives are things we don't worry about because we don't see them coming. And the things we choose to worry about, things we can't change anyway. And it really gets in the way of affecting people's pace and opportunities that they make, I would have thought.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are such misused and sometimes misunderstood words, but I mean, if you're able to live in the present and actually go, yeah, okay, you know, it's pretty good right now. You know, I have a colleague, and somebody asked her once and said, "I never see you worry. Don't you worry about this?" And she said, "Well, I don't see the point."
That's right.
And I thought it was a very telling comment. Exactly right. I mean, there is actually no point. It's just our minds are trained that way. Exactly. Yeah, I think if you try to predict everything, you keep it so tight and so controlled, all the fun goes out of it.
I think it'd be
Because
boring. I think it'd be boring, don't you, as well? If you could predict next week, next month, I mean, I think it would be pretty boring.
But also the other thing is, I mean, how often has it happened to you that it was something unpredictable happened that was great?
Oh, every time, every
exactly.
time. Driving to Mitcham from Southampton.
Exactly. Some of the best stuff I never saw coming. But there it was, Absolutely. And if I would have gone, well, it can only be like this, it can only be like this. I would have let that pass by and nothing would have ever happened.
Exactly. But, it's strange. I see, I mean, doing what I'm sure what you do and what you've done as well, because you had a very successful professional dancing career, fabulous business, you built and bought and sold and all that sort of thing. And when people look at what you do, and they look at what we do as well, and they say, I want to do what you do. I want to do what you do and this stuff, which is great. And I say to them, I was in an airport when we're allowed to fly, and there's a guy next to me, and we're chatting, the plane was delayed, and we got chatting, and he said to me, I want to do what you do. And I said to him, well, give me your phone. And he had his iPhone. And I said, what's your boss's name? He went, well, it's like Bob Smith or whatever. I said, okay. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm resigning for you. I'm going to text your resignation through, because if you really want to do what I do, you've got to make a break. And he went white. He just no, that was just too far. He said, no, I can't do it now because I've got a career, I've got mortgage, got kids, got credit cards, got pension, and there's so much baggage he piled on top of himself, bless him. He just couldn't see a way through. And I wouldn't recommend just resigning from your job, but sometimes you've got to take that leap. And as you say, the door is open. You've got to walk through it as well, though.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely right. And I think it is a balance. I mean, I don't think it means recklessness.
No.
We had a second decision to make when we were coming back to Vienna. It was around 2004. We kind of went, we'd really actually love to live in Austria.
Sure.
We had more than 20 good years in England. But there we were, exactly like you're saying. We had a house with a mortgage. We had a business with 50, 60, 70 people. We had 2 kids who were born in England, who went to school in England. And then you want to go, go back to Vienna. And actually, for years, we pushed that ahead. It was like the donkey with a carrot, it kept moving with us. When the time is right,
Yes, when the time is right.
When the time is right. And it's always about 5 years ahead, right?
Right.
But then we made the decision. And I mean, it took us just over a year to prepare for it and do it intelligently, but we did it, and it was great,
How did, out of interest, how did because I knew both your kids when we were over in the UK with you. How did they respond? How did they take that move?
Well, the kids were great. I mean, Lucas was actually more than ready. He kind of went, yeah, great. He was going to change school anyway. Tanya was a little bit at first of, I'm never going to have friends again like the ones that I've got.
Yeah.
But she was 11, so there was one of those things that we had to make a choice in this case for her.
Yes, of course. Yes.
But within a few months, it was great. And actually, a year later, she went back. And she said, I see it completely different now. I only saw the few things that were really good, but now I see all the other things and the things that are so much better in Austria.
It is strange going back, isn't it? It is strange to go back and see. And I think she's absolutely right. In hindsight, we remember for some reason the highlights. We don't remember all the other things as well. And we go back to the UK, and we love the UK. We've got family over there. But the thing I noticed about the UK whenever we go back is the traffic. It is just a continuous traffic jam in the UK. We're in rural France. We have tractors and sheep and goats and that sort of thing around here, and it's just different. And going back, I don't remember it that way, but I'm sure it was, especially in towards Mitcham in South London all the time. But strange how it fades. It is strange how it fades.
Yeah, still go occasionally, but I mean, my view is, and I mean, it turned out to be a great decision, but I think even if maybe after another couple of years he would have said, yeah, okay, that was nice to try, but it's not quite right. I think even then it would be great to have done it.
Yes.
Because then you try something out, you find out what works for you, what doesn't work for you. I think standing still and just keeping thinking about it is like standing on a crossroads, and you keep looking left, you keep looking right, you don't make a decision and nothing happens. Even if by turning right you find out that wasn't quite your route, well, okay, now you know more.
Yeah, just turn around and go back the other way. It's
exactly, and try something else. Yeah, and in the meantime, you probably found out that that particular juncture didn't just have left and right; it probably had 6 other options as well.
Indeed.
Yeah, and you only find that out if you're moving. Yeah, yes. So I think ultimately you've got to take.
I remember one of the guys I'm working with in Luxembourg, and he is he's an accountant. He's from Germany, and he worked for one of the big American banks. And we were talking, this is some time ago when we first started working together. I said to him, well, how did you become an accountant and go into financial services? And how did you do that? He said, well, he left school, left college, and he went to where they were sort of signing up for the university courses. And he walked into the registration room. On the sales and marketing table, there was a queue of about 30, 40 people waiting to sign up. On the accounting and finance queue, there was nobody. He said, well, I wanted to go down the bar. So I signed up quick, went to the bar straight away. His whole career was sort of pointed in the direction because he wanted to get to the bar. And he's like, really? Well, now he's had a fabulous career, but in hindsight, people sometimes make the quick, easy, simple decision that is just too straightforward and maybe avoid the more obscure, strange, bizarre, let's go to the UK with £10 in our pocket or whatever. They avoid that for some other reason, but that's where the gold lies as well sometimes.
Yeah, I think we get so taught to be safe and to be careful, and who likes to enjoy, who enjoys regretting a decision,
Yeah.
But I think it's a little bit of a slanted perspective, because if you say, well, it's a decision and it was all wrong, that's very different than if you say, well, it was a decision and I learned something. Didn't quite work out. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, and I'm sure everybody's read the book. Yeah, sometimes not quite so easy to do it.
Exactly.
when you really think you've screwed up, but ultimately, the truth is, it is that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. By acting and deciding, you actually shape things.
Yes.
And sometimes you then learn something about yourself or about situation or whatever. Yeah. I think if you don't decide, you let events or other people shape things.
Yeah.
And personally, I think that's always the poorer route.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you're lucky, it all kind of works out, but more often than not, it's just going to take you somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think
it's nice. It still wasn't your choice, right?
Exactly, so, right. Yeah. But it's the things that affect us we don't choose as well. That's the thing. I think it's to have that not degree of control, but just keep on moving, keep on allowing happiness to arrive. I think chasing it is, even in my experience, chasing it didn't work, but enabling it to sort of arrive and be doing the right things and realizing it. I think it's one of these things. The difference between happiness and joy. Joy is when you win, you win the medal, the birth of a child, or you have some. That's joy. But it's very short-lived. Happiness is more of a, at least in my experience, a background noise. When you're happy, even if just stuff is happening. Happiness is a background noise, whereas joy is sort of fleeting to a certain extent. And I wonder if people want joy all the time, which they probably can't have, and they forget to have the happiness of the background noise themselves as well.
I think that's right, and I think there's a confusion there very often. And I mean, there's all these different actors. There's happiness, there's joy, there's satisfaction, there's sense of accomplishment, and it becomes this blend that is probably very personal. But I think I would agree with you. There's that background noise is a good word for it.
Yeah.
Kind of
very gentle,
understand. Yeah,
soft
and I think the interesting thing is. When you get to that place, even when things go wrong, even if shit happens, you kind of still know that it's there and always available.
Yeah.
And of course, I think the always happy is what gives it a bad name. Yeah, I don't think anybody's always happy.
No.
Yeah.
Even us. Even us.
Stuff happens, right?
Of course it does. Absolutely.
Stuff happens, but knowing that you can always be happy.
Yeah.
I think that kind of what creates the solid foundation.
So now, I mean, because our lives and careers were different, and we sort of collided,
reconverged. Yeah,
we crashed into each other, and
it's one of the positive side effects of the lockdown, right?
Exactly, and then we come back together. So we now, by the sound of it, you and I now are quite sort of maybe aligned in terms of what we're doing. So just give a quick a description. What are you doing now? What's your professional life look like now for you?
Well, it's kind of an interesting mix because on one hand, I still support businesses.
Yeah.
And I work with owner-managed businesses. I always work with owner-managed business. That's where my experience is. And I love that blend of personal goals and professional goals and how they intermix and how you develop the best strategy forwards. And it always also coincides with the attitudes and decisions and lifestyle choices of either the owner or the senior team. Yeah, and the twain go together. Yeah, and I really like that mix. And ultimately, I think owner-managed businesses, they're a complete reflection of how the owner works and thinks and ticks and makes
for good or not so good, actually, isn't it? Sometimes.
So that is on the business side. On the personal side, and this is also where the overlap is, I'm an active coach for the Avatar training. We used to deliver offline courses until the last one ended on 10th of March. There's an experiment going with the very first one again at social distancing right now, actually, in Holland. And it's restricted to 30 people and 1.5 meter distance. But what we have done, we've translated a number of the work and the exercises to online. So that keeps me really busy right now. It's called the Online Resurfacing Workshop. What used to run in 2 days solid now runs over about 4 or 5 days of about 3 hours each.
So slicing it up as you go.
Yeah. And people really like it because I think they can integrate it easier into their lives. And it is learning about how to live your life. So in some ways, actually, I think it has certain benefits because you do something, you integrate something, you go into your day, you apply it straight away. It seems to have, it seems to really make a difference to how people go through this whole period now.
I think we're beginning to come out of it now a little bit to a certain extent. And I think of what we do, we would do the traditional classroom-based workshops and events and conferences. And we've taken some of our training onto video and stream, this type of thing. And what I'm finding is that people want both. They're interested in the slicing of a workshop over 4 weeks or something like that. But they also want to get together and just have that human engagement in a room at some point, which will probably come back. But we'll probably find, I guess for you guys as well, we'll probably find we'll do both in the future.
That's my conclusion at this moment in time, is that I think, board meetings for which we always got together, we now run on Zoom. Absolutely. And actually it's very, very effective,
They're quicker, aren't they, as well?
They're quicker. You don't have like hours of travel one way or the other. And you can actually do them more often if needed, because instead of pretty much spending a day with the whole thing around it, a couple of hours in and out. So.
That's it. That is much, much more efficient. We're seeing this. I think it'll continue on. I think the new normal, whatever they call that, I would have thought.
Yeah.
So what's next for Peter and Crystal Dobner? What's the future hold?
Well, I think it's building on this. There's a few things that we're taking out of this whole COVID situation. Pretty much like you said, actually, we used to travel an awful lot those last few years. And for me personally, I think I can reduce that a little and actually do even better work. Yes. So I've already started that, not completely. There will be things that are better offline. But beyond that, I want to build on this. It's probably, I'm pretty busy, but there's probably 1 or maybe 2 people who want to build something that I would still take in. Where I go, okay. And I'm a little selective these days, I have to admit, because somebody needs to want to go places. Yes. I'm not that interested to work with people who see a problem at every corner. Let's talk opportunities.
So let's look forward.
It doesn't mean there can't be a problem on the way.
Sure, exactly.
We want to go somewhere. And also I like working with people who see their own journey as an ongoing development. Where you're not done, okay, I'm done, this is who I am, and no, let's see how far we can stretch that potential.
Yes, okay. So we're going to have millions of people listening and watching this recording, I'm sure.
Of course we will.
Of course, it's bound to be. But anybody who wants to sort of connect, find you, and have a conversation, how do they find Peter Dobner? How do we do
I
it?
think the easiest way to connect is probably on LinkedIn.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and just a simple message, and then we can take it from there.
Yes.
You know, I mean, there's many other ways, but I think that's the most straightforward,
That's the most straightforward one. Okay,
Yeah,
I can vouch you. You are quite friendly. You're okay. It's okay to reach out.
It's okay. It's okay to reach out, and I do respond.
Exactly.
Religiously, actually. Yeah, if somebody reaches out, I always respond.
It's really interesting that we do lots of these calls and conversations and a lot over video, and sometimes I have to remind people at 5 to the hour that the call starts in 5 minutes, this sort of thing. With you, I know I didn't have to do that because I knew we're raised to speak at 11 o'clock and I'm on there at 10 to. I knew you were going to be on there at 5 to, and all is good. But that's one of those sort of patterns or disciplines of business and life that you can just sort of trust that people are going to be there on time. They don't have to sign a contract. They just do what they're going to say. And that's been a sort of key driver, I think. It's an observation of what you've done. You just keep your promises and away you go.
Well, thank you. I mean, I tend to take the rule that if I want to be treated a certain way, that's how I try, at least most of the time. Yeah. Where are you taking things from here, David?
Well, we've got to go and get the house. As you know, we've got this.
I saw that. This is quite the project, right?
When we bought it, we saw the house before lockdown, and we had literally 2 minutes inside this house, and we got to the back garden. So there's a house with a barn behind it, and the garden from the barn to the bottom of the garden, which is about 80 meters away or something. It was just like 2 meters of weeds. You couldn't see a thing. Anyway, we thought, well, that was a bit of fun. We got an email the week after, and the lady said, it's off the market. They had an offer on it. It's gone. So, fair enough. Anyway, during lockdown, it came back on again because for whatever reason, the other buyers disappeared. And she said, are you interested? And I said, well, yeah, okay, looked okay. So, but of course, in France, you have to sign a document to register your interest in buying it. So we signed it's called a compris de vente. We signed this document electronically, which means we're committed to buy this thing. So we bought a house on lockdown, only having seen it for about 3 minutes. So now we haven't got the keys yet. We've flattened the garden. So that's our next project. It's a 6-month project. It's one of these things, opportunity. So I'm just hoping we've made the right choice now.
Well, I think whatever the outcome, actually, I think you're going to have a great time with it.
If anybody wants to do some digging, decorating or painting in rural France and they want a weekend away, let us know. There's plenty of work to do. Well, it's good fun. It's one of these things where I think it's like an instinctive thing. You know, it's ridiculous in a lot of ways. It needs the roof fixing, it needs a rewire, it needs stuff doing to it. But there was something about it. It was just, we're going to go for it. And so we've got, so our future is the house. We're still continue to build our training, coaching business. But, and I hopefully, I sense that, you and I are back in each other's orbits now as well. So hopefully some sort of collaboration, whatever it is, we can work that out between us as well as we go. I'm sure but the house is the future for us at the moment.
Well, and once we can travel again, Luxembourg is not that far away.
Absolutely. Well, you're taller than me. You can reach the ceilings that I can't reach, so you can come and do the painting or something.
That's just push the date out by about 3 months. Right. You realize that? Right?
Yeah, you're real busy now, aren't you? I'm real busy.
Yeah, until the painting's done.
Oh dear. Well, Peter, look, it's been fabulous. I don't know if we are irritatingly positive and happy to everybody watching this, but it's been great to reconnect. We are reconnected, so I do appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, David. Yeah, as I said at the beginning, this is an experiment for me. So,
I'll be kind on the edit. We'll be okay with that. And for anybody watching or listening, it's Peter Dobner. Find him on LinkedIn. Great guy, highly recommended. Ping him a message, have a virtual coffee, and see what you can do. You'll see me on other areas of the recordings, videos. You might see Peter and I again doing something. But Peter, thank you for your time. I'll pause the recording. We can have a follow-up chat. And thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you guys again soon.